Hello and welcome to the newest episode of Pop Culture Therapy. I'm Cruellica Kain.
Hello everybody, it's Entitlement Nebula.
And today we're here to talk about the entitlement of fansubs.
And basically what we're going to go over is because of what happened roughly about 2.5 weeks ago. The reason we waited, give you some guys to cool down about this because of what happened with Toei and the cease and desist letter that people thought was not real at first until it found out that the email address it came from was actually from a corporate board of directors person at Toei Animation and Toei Studios.
So, I first want to start off with kind of the history of fansubs because they are relevant to our pop culture zeitgeist when it comes to watching anything foreign. So, I would say fansubs really started making its presence known in probably the 70s and 80s.
And it was done back in the day. A bunch of people would have somebody that they knew that lived overseas, send them the program over here, and it'd be already subtitled because their friend was dual language capable or even triple language capable and would put subtitles the old-fashioned way onto a VHS tape and then mail it to somebody, and it'd be watched in a club back then. And this happened with not just programs in Japan, but programs all across the world. And what was really popular in the 70s and early 80s was Soviet programming.
Yes. And then we get into, I would say, probably the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, where anime blew up. And while anime blew up, there wasn't a lot of representation here in the United States. Yes, we get those random series like Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball, so the things that people really talk about being mainstream. But a lot of the series that people hadn't heard of like Inuyasha or Yu-Gi-Oh or Utena or so many other series.
And this was at a time when people were transitioning from doing it through the VHS or Laserdisc. DVDs didn't really have that except for the bootleggers that would subtitle it. But you had actual fansubbers do it either by VHS or Laserdisc.
Or CDRs.
Yeah, or CDRs. It transferred over to being the internet fansubbing and IRC chat rooms. Before torrent came around, you had to use an IRC chat to get fansubs.
And then, I would say, while anime was starting to become released publicly, it was still more cult-oriented or very simplistic, where you would get maybe 2 to 3 episodes on a VHS tape or 2 to 3 episodes on a DVD, and it was very limited based on what was being licensed. And it wasn't until, admittedly, Funimation, ADV, Viz, and Media Blasters, Manga Entertainment,
which was roughly
CPM.
about 2008 when what was called the license boom. And yes, you still had fansubbers subbing series, but you started to see it slow down as time progressed until the bubble burst, and then Crunchyroll came around as a bootlegging fansub site that eventually went legit in 2014, I want to say, is when they...
Yeah, I think around then.
Yeah.
And really, Crunchyroll was what we consider TV Nihon or Kiss Anime or anything like that. Crunchyroll was the source everybody went to back in the day to watch anime online. And the reason they went legit, admittedly this is more conjecture because I don't think they've actually said publicly, but I imagine the reason they went legit is because they did not want, 1, to get sued, and 2, it gave them an opportunity to actually legally release more anime with subtitles, because truthfully, a lot of the anime that you have on Crunchyroll does have licensing with Viz, with Funimation, with Sentai Filmworks, and ADV and Bandai back in the day. They're able to release the Japanese content for a temporary period, or even permanently, depending on the license negotiations.
Or now that they're actually, with their own originals, now releasing them via their own website now.
Exactly. And then they work with publishers like Funimation to release their series on disc, which you have with Yuri on Ice and Nanbaka.
And now they have an agreement with Viz because of
Warner
Brothers, but now that they're likely going to become part of Sony again, pending what happens at the end of this month with the antitrust suit that's been filed right now, but we'll have to see how that goes. We may end up having Crunchyroll and Funimation all under the same umbrella again.
And so the reason why I think it's important to go around this is because
Tokusatsu's kind of in the boat anime was back then now.
Absolutely. And it's starting to slowly become more public, especially when you have advocates like Mill Creek, Shout Factory, Kraken, and I think it's Discotheque. You have advocates now that are working hard to bring Tokusatsu to the States, and
I think Tsuburaya has been the only one that's actually got it by getting that agreement with Mill Creek and actually releasing the stuff on their own platforms consistently with their own, it's their own subtitles, which sometimes aren't the greatest, but you know what? We're getting it.
And back in the day, for anyone who has remembered original Fansubs, the quality was crap. And I'm looking at TV Nihon as well. Back in the day, some of the early stuff, and I remember early TV Nihon stuff, and I think you do too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the greatest. They've obviously
become really good. The only reason I've turned off the TV Nihon are the effects and the facts that they keep words in Japanese without translating it when you need a dictionary to look it up what that actually means sometimes.
Exactly. And obviously you have Grown Ups in Spandex, you have so many others now. But, so to be honest, as you said, fan subbing for Tokusatsu is starting to meet the same thing as anime. Anime has the same problem. People who do fan subs, admittedly, they're not even doing fan subs anymore. They're just ripping and stealing what a legitimate company has done.
And then redoing the subtitles.
If they even redo the subtitles.
Yeah. There are also the occasional series that just doesn't see a Western license that gets a fan sub. And it's like, well, that's probably because they understand that this is going to be such a niche product, there's really not a point.
Or it's so against our Western norms, why are they even going to make it come over here?
As I'm going to say, it's Toei that doesn't understand there's an actual fan base for Pretty Cure here.
Yeah, I've not understood that particular one. But nonetheless, I understand why people like the fan stubs. Because, as we even noticed when we had that infamous tweet that said, well, why would people know about Kamen Rider or Sentai in America? Nobody's ever seen it. And us as a collective audience is like, well, yes, we have.
And it's obviously, ever since that, Toei's become very well aware of the community. And now, trying to put out their stuff, but they're not doing the best job.
Well, they're still learning.
Yeah.
To be fair, Toei obviously is still hesitant because while American audiences have said very loudly that we are fans, I can understand them not necessarily jumping in feet first.
Yeah. I mean, yes, they have fully released now Agito and Fies with their own subtitles. That's gibberish at times.
Well, yes, but Shout Factory has done a good job when it comes to releasing
all their Sentai releases, and now with them, I'm really excited to see what they're doing with 01 and then what they've released for the original Kamen Rider and Kuga. They've done a phenomenal job on the subtitling, so it's like, Toei, work with Shout Factory here.
Well, and I kind of anticipate that may come down the pike.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that that is going to be an eventuality, but The reason why we're doing this is because
a lot of these fans of TV Nihon have said they're going to refuse to purchase the legal DVDs or even stream the legal streams because of what just happened.
And it's kind of a slap in the face because I'm going to say it very coldly. Kamen Rider fans and Tokusatsu fans have expressed loudly, we are fans, we are fans, we are fans. You now have gotten what you wish for. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't watch it for free and expect a company to release it legally over here, because who the hell is going to buy it if they can get it without cost?
Yeah. And you can be angry all you want that Nihon has removed all their Sentai and Kamen Rider stuff off their site now. Well, guess what? That means there's probably something coming down the line eventually here, and you're going to have to live with it.
And also, at the same time, these people are not paid like a regular salary. And I don't mean to say these people in a terrible manner, but nobody at Overtime, Grown Ups in Spandex, TV Nihon, or any of these fansubbers have a salary.
They're doing this for the love of the product and getting it out for us. The same way people that make fan translations of video games do it for the fact they want somebody to experience this game that they love, that they can actually read in Japanese.
It's the same reason we do the podcasts that we do about Kamen Rider Tokusatsu, or when we weekly review Zenkaiger. It's because we love the property. It's not because, yes, we can watch it for free, so we're going to take advantage of it. No, it's because we respect what they do creatively, and if we can get a legitimate copy, we want it.
Yeah, like when Ultraman Trigger this summer starts streaming on YouTube again on Super I's channel once that finishes its rerun. We'll get back to doing reviews on that every few weeks when I can actually make it over.
Absolutely. And the same thing of now with companies with fansubbers taking their subs off, you can't blame Toei. Toei has a right to protect their intellectual properties. We don't have to like it, but they have a right to do it. And the individuals who make that decision to say, okay, we got these cease and desist, we're going to listen to them, they have the right to do so, because I hate to break it to you, they're going to be the ones held responsible if they don't do so.
Yeah, and people are probably in the comments section going to go, well, it's international territories. How can they? Copyright law doesn't work that way.
And copyright law has a very interesting thing. If you put in for an intellectual property license in the country, such as United States, that means that they have a right to go after anyone in the United States. And admittedly, the TV Nihon, most of the staff are in the US. They're American bound. So it's a very fine line. And I think my frustration with the entitlement is really, as you said, that people are refusing to even acknowledge the legal product because they can't watch it for free. And I don't think that's fair, because you wanted the product. You wanted it more accessible.
Yeah.
Did you just say you are a fan of Kamen Rider and Tokusatsu, or Tokusatsu in general, just because you can watch it for free? Because I hate to break it to you, you're not a fan.
Yeah, and the same goes for you people that went when Kiss Anime died, went in an uproar. Now, their other sister site that broadcasts all the dramas and all our favorite Tokusatsu shows is still up. But you know what? The fansubbers that do those fansubs that ends up on hate that site.
Oh, yes.
They openly express how much they hate that site. They were much have you prefer you went through their IRC chat or torrented. And unfortunately, a lot of you guys don't understand that, because they like a simple reason for that. It doesn't lose their intellectual egos and they are doing this for love when it ends up on one of those illegal streaming sites, because torrenting's a gray area, there you go.
And I also have to give some patience for the individuals that legitimately can't afford. I can understand that the cost of a series might be a little bit outside of your monetary abilities. I will admit, having a hobby like anime or movies or tokusatsu, when you want to buy a legal product, it's not cheap. You have a barrier to entry, and you do have to weigh your responsibilities. But at the same time, stealing it, and I'm not saying I'm innocent. I am not innocent. But
support the official product when it gets a release.
Exactly. Even if it means going through a streaming service like Shout Factory, which they have with Tubi, or going through Funimation.
Well, Shout Factory also has Pluto TV as well.
Yes. So going through a legitimate service like Tubi, Pluto, or if it's owned by Funimation, or if it's on Netflix, there are ways around it. You can watch a lot of content on Funimation without having a paid account. Just like other things, you have to deal with commercials. If you know somebody who has a paid account, ask them if you can share it. Give them a few bucks for it. That's fair. Same thing with Netflix. So many people have a lot of these streaming services that these shows may end up on.
Yeah.
So to say, well, if it's not fan-subbed anymore, I won't have access to it.
You're not looking hard enough.
You're not looking hard enough. And at the end of the day, yes, bad people will take advantage of legal products and make them possible for download. We all know the pirates.
Yeah. And don't be like this guy on Twitter, @Toku Gaming. He ended up tweeting at the producer of Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and said he would not take it down, and actually added TV Nihon in overtime.
Mm-hmm. That he feels as though, and I know there's many people who do agree with him, that their personal love of the series is being threatened because they don't have the capability of being able to access those torrents for those series.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair at the same time, many of those torrents have been up for years.
Mm-hmm.
If you absolutely, legitimately wanted to watch these shows like Agito, Ryuki, Fies, 01 even now, I promise you, those series have been long been completed. Yeah. So you cannot use the excuse that, oh my god, Toei is taking my tokusatsu away, because you had time.
Now, to be fair, do have to bring up, a lot of you European fans are definitely getting a shaft by Toei here. Cause,
yes.
It's really, all they're catering to is now North America and Latin America. Latin America gets all these series overdubbed in Spanish or Portuguese. Mm-hmm. So they will still have a lot of access to it. They're starting to now actually look at the North American market, but like Toei just completely ignores the European market completely.
They do, but we live in a modern age where, because I have PAL stuff, which is the England and I think the English Isles and probably some countries in Europe. PAL is their format for what we have for what we have normally. So there are players that you can mod to play these types of discs.
And also, there's a little lovely thing called a VPN.
Yes.
If you know how to use a VPN correctly, you can access American streaming services.
You can. I am not encouraging illegal services. That's not the point. But where there's a will, there's a way. However, at the same time, it is not fair to take it out on a company or take it out on TV Nihon. I have seen some tweets where people have called out TV Nihon or Overtime for taking down their subs, calling them cowards. hey, I would like to be able to say that I'm happy they're not in jail, because that's where they would be.
Mm-hmm. And realistically, if you look hard enough, you can actually find some of these shows still on certain sites for torrenting, or IRC chat rooms, but that's going to be your only way now.
Yes, and that's going to be your only way. But at the same time, I think it's foolish to boycott an entire property because you don't like what a company has decided to do with their own property. Think about it in this perspective. You own something. You own, like for you, Evan, you own your own car. You're going to be owning your own home. Does that give anybody else a right, if you let them in one time, to say, after you change your mind, say, no, we're going to do this separately, that they own your stuff?
They do not.
And I know that's a very, like, well, that's different. He's a person versus a company.
I hate to break it to you, but in the U.S., Japan, and a few European nations, a corporation is also classified as an individual.
Person. Yes. Which, admittedly, in America, it frustrates the hell out of a lot of people. Because corporations shouldn't be people, but they are per the legal standards.
And in Japan, they are a corporation is considered a person by the legal standards there. But when you look at the work ethic in Japan, you can kind of understand why.
Exactly. And here's another frustration I have with with just fully looking at fan subs and being entitled for that. Feeling like you're entitled just to have the fan subs because TV Nihon has like this very ostentatious and flamboyant presentation style that the companies will not use.
Keep in mind, worldwide there's only 4 standards of subtitles that are allowed to be used.
Publicly.
And 2 of them are kind of getting phased out to what Amazon and Netflix use with the white and yellow box lettering, or the black with the white lettering. Those are going to be your standard of subtitles going forward, because it's for the vision impaired that have to have these certain types of subtitles.
I was going to say, it's not for your benefit. It's for the benefit of the people who cannot hear. And they have to keep it consistent, because if they keep on changing it, too much visual distraction actually eliminates a lot of your enjoyment of that property. And that's actually one of the reasons that we stopped working with stopped watching a lot of TV Nihon stuff, unless it was a last resort. Not just because there are some subtitling flaws compared to Overtime, but also because their subs could be so distracting with how colorful they were. And I love colorful stuff, but I just want to focus on the show.
When the subtitles are distracting you from actually being able to pay attention to the plot point, yeah, I'm going to stick with what I like with just the bland white subtitles.
Yes, it's not fun, and yes, if there's a scene that has a lot of white behind it, it's a living nightmare. But you get used to it. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but it's the truth.
Yeah. And you can usually pick up off of it. And when you watch certain stuff subtitled in a language long enough, you begin to pick up a lot of the nuances and be able to fill in the blank when you can't see the subtitles.
And I think that's actually a good point. The other benefit of having the company have one consistent subtitling profile is you're going to have a consistent translation. And that will reduce, especially, let's say, for example, you watch an episode of, let's say, Cure Major, just because that's been fully subbed and it's been out for a while. You watch an episode on TV Nihon, then you watch either the same episode or the following episode on Overtime. I can guarantee you not just their presentation, but their translations could be entirely different based on the person who is translating that script.
And it's a guarantee because of Nihon's tendency to leave Japanese words in because they look and sound cool, as opposed to Overtime where they're going, hey, let's have the actual translation of this word on screen so it doesn't get lost in context.
Exactly. And so that can make it a bit of a challenge. So, long story short, having entitlements for fansubbing, yes, has been here for more than 50 years. However, just like with anime and other properties that have gone through this transition, Tokusatsu now has to make that leap of faith that anime did, saying that yes, they're going to be able to have what they need. And you're now going to get what you want property-wise. 01 is going to be brought to the United States. We have Kuga already. We have Kamen Rider already. We have so much. So we just have to be patient and not say, oh, go to hell, Toei, because we don't like you.
Yeah, and hell, $3.99 a month through Amazon Prime, you have access to Toku. Yes, Toei's doing its own translations, which some fan subs have been better than for Fives and Agito, but you know, you gotta live with what you got, especially because if Toei's starting to put their own series on Toku now, that's progress.
Well, and at the same time, how do we know that they're actually bad?
Yeah.
Because we have individuals who are doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
This is not to say that anybody who has translated Japanese for fan subs are incorrect, but we don't know.
Yeah. But I have watched some of the Fives. There's grammatical errors that you can tell was whoever translated this, English was probably their third language.
Okay, well, who knows? I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I just want people to have patience, let it go, and just be excited. You finally got your damn wish.
Yeah.
After, at least for me, I started watching Tokusatsu in 2002. And it's been nearly 20 years. After nearly 20 years, I finally can say, I'm getting what I want.
15 years it took me since I started watching it. 15 years.
And so, just get over it. And give TV Nihon the love that they deserve, because they were a pioneer when it came to Tokusatsu. And so they most wholeheartedly, even though I don't like some people personally, they deserve all the credit.
And, you know, they're looking now to branching out to the Korean versions of Tokusatsu for starting the subtitles. So if you like TV Nihon and want to still support them, start checking out what they're going to start doing with the Korean stuff. We're going to have a lot of things to look forward to still through them. But at the same time, don't be an entitled jerk to the companies that are losing out to the fan subbers. I mean, come on. We got what we wanted. But at the same time, if you're in Europe, I can understand your frustration.
Exactly.
Yeah. Leave the poor ants alone.
Bothering me.
And with that, we're going to get into another heavy topic, but it's as we have things going on, and especially with what just launched yesterday as of this recording, Sailor Moon Eternals movies have just premiered on Netflix.
Yes, so we're going to look at Netflix, the new anime studio?
Or are they the new kings of licensing anime now?
It's a little confusing, but check us out next time. Bye!